back to another episode of Collector's Quest. I'm Tyler, here with Johnny. Johnny.
Oh my God, Tyler, it's so good to have you back. I had to talk to myself last week.
Where was I? Oh, come on. I had a busy week at work and I wasn't able to get the podcast out on time, which stresses me out because we have like Patreons. I feel like this is coming out next week.
Oh God. I mean, that's crazy. I did an episode for everybody.
No one, Johnny, people love you. No one listens to the Johnny solo episodes. It's going to get like half as many views as our regular episode.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's not going to get as many, but that's okay. But we put it out there, and it's not my fault if people don't listen. Some people are very much... I should have just called the episode Johnny Stories, and then more people would listen. Probably. But instead, I gave it like this ridiculous like warning because I didn't want people to have false expectations. But we put something out.
There are rave reviews in the Discord about how people love your storytelling, Johnny.
They enjoy it. Let's not get hyper.
Rave reviews. Also, best Collector's Quest episode is still the Super Nintendo episode, the two-parter that was like 5 or 7 years ago or something.
7 years ago, yeah.
One long Johnny story.
It was too long, Tyler, so I broke it into 2 episodes, 2 30-minute episodes. Oh man,
we're gonna have just a normal episode today, like a good 20 minutes, I think. A really focused discussion that doesn't just become background noise for people who are organizing their Super Nintendo games.
Why would it be bad if we were just background noise to that?
No, I'm being facetious because I think that's what we are to like 50% of people. Or if you're driving, you're on a long trip, a lot of people are just like, oh man, good. I could just throw on 3 hours of something related to video games while I'm driving. This is the best.
Yeah.
I know that feeling. I know the feeling of running out of content, Johnny. When you have a stupid, specific niche, there's just not enough content out there.
Here's the secret, Tyler. Have like 15 hobbies, and then you'll never be out of content. And then also, just be curious about all the dumb things that happen in the world, and you will be like me, and you will be overwhelmed by all the things that are out there.
I mean, I have like an addictive personality, so I can't have too many hobbies because if I get into something, I go all the way in.
Oh, tell me more about that. I don't understand.
Yeah, I know. And like video game collecting is the one thing that's like stuck throughout the ages. I can't even think of one other hobby that I've gone like obviously this deep into as video game collecting. But I don't remember if I even brought it up on the show when I got into like astronomy and stargazing like a year or two ago.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit.
Yeah, and I know my personality, and I actively prevented myself from buying a telescope. Because I'm like, if I buy a telescope, I'm going to get a new hobby in fucking 3 months, and then I'm going to have a fucking telescope, and what am I going to do with it? Lo and behold, I am no longer, like, researching everything about, like, starting to stargaze. Like, I still look up at the sky and could be like, there's Cassiopeia when I'm walking my dog. But I would not be making time at this point in my life to go like on actual stargazing trips, like lugging my telescope somewhere.
You told the story of your hike with your overly fit friend from work and to like that island you wound up camping on the beach at.
Oh yeah. That's not going to happen again, Johnny. I'm getting in much better shape by walking and jogging every day now. We're on a mission to better ourselves this year.
Oh yeah, is that the royal we, or do you mean you and Ada?
That's the royal we.
Okay,
Johnny, we're getting in shape. We're eating better. We're deleting social media. We're cutting back on our hobbies. Not cutting back like I'm not selling all my games. I'm just if there's a hobby that maybe I don't need in my life, like stargazing or collecting metal dice, like maybe I can cut back on some of that because I have too many hobbies, Johnny.
Oh. Yeah, I've got some hobbies. And you see, you're going that way. I'm going the other way. Like, how
you're collecting
can I
hobbies?
Expand? I'm like, how can I have more hobbies? How can I go harder?
Isn't there a limit, Johnny?
Tyler, there is a limit, but I don't know if I'm ever going to be done.
Oh, okay, we're transitioning. Here's the transition.
I mean, I was trying, unless you didn't want to.
Johnny, something I wanted to smoothly transition to and then we tried transitioning to the episode, is, oh, there's not enough game collecting content. But Josh Barley's show, which name I forget, the Video Game Collectors Podcast?
Yeah.
I love you guys. I just need a snappy name. Serial. What a great name for a podcast about crime. Anyway, they were talking about there's a new WADA game collecting guide. And they had a whole episode about it. And I haven't looked at this, Johnny. So do you want to look at it together and judge how good WADA's guide is compared to CGC?
Sure. Is this the one that's like, if you want to start collecting?
So CGC put out a guide, like a pretty good guide, actually. Yeah, and it went over like the basics of every platform and all the major variants and sort of key games and rare games to look out for. And besides the fact that like the rare games were a little bit like, okay, Rule of Rose, that's not the rarest PS2 game. Besides that, like the desirable stuff and the variants was actually really good. It went into like really in-depth stuff with like UPCs, and it told you what like Rev A was, when 3-screw, 5-screw, you know, seal of quality, circle versus oval, like everything you would want to know about collecting a platform, like all the basic stuff before you get into like the really like psychotic stuff. Like that guide is a really good primer. And I only know about this WADA guide because of the Video Game Collectors Podcast, but I specifically didn't look at it, Johnny, and maybe we could just briefly look at it now.
Sure.
And
so,
give a snap judgment.
Yeah. So this is WADA, so you want to collect games.
So you want to collect video games. Maybe let's just read this guide and put it out as our own content.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Are you thumbing through this?
I'm full screen. I'm on just on the second page. What is game collecting? I don't know, kind of in the title there.
I'm going to skip like the first 10 pages because this is probably really boring.
Well, no, this gives... the index tells you what way they're going to go. What is game collecting? The life cycle of a WADA graded game. How to submit a game. Price discovery. Understanding the grading scale. And game collecting terms to know. I might have put game collecting terms to know before all of that, but whatever.
Okay. I actually thought this might be something different because this thing's like 90 pages long. So now I'm actually skimming through this now. Like, the very first things it goes over is, like, how do I get my games graded? And grade your game, getting the highest score.
Why would I get my games graded?
Okay.
To make less money.
Maybe this isn't going to be as fun as I thought. So there is, like, if you look at page 16, 17, it goes over Rev A versus no Rev A, Player's Choice and Greatest Hits, and Made in Japan versus Made in Mexico. But I thought it was going to be more details like that and less... get your games graded with WADA and then sell them for a lot of money.
Yeah, so I'm looking at page 3 here. It says number three, but really it's on page 18 and 19, and it says selling your game, convert to coins. Like,
yeah,
I'm kind of getting the vibe that the primer of this is for people who are looking to make money, not collect games.
Okay, yeah, it is. I did not realize that that's what this was. Like, literally, there's a huge section on how to create a WADA account and how to submit a game. And, like, this is really nice documentation for people who would be interested in that, who, like, if you really know nothing about games and you want to just buy games to submit them to WADA, this is some really nice documentation as someone who works at a company with really bad documentation. But this isn't super interesting as someone who already collects games, I guess.
Yeah. Like, it sounds like we're poo-pooing this. This is just very specific to their process, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, but this does feel very much like, collect games, profit, win.
Yep, it's gamifying collecting games in a monetary way, Johnny.
Yeah, so we can no longer collect rare things. We can collect the rare grades. That's actually my least favorite thing about graded games now. Is like the obsession with the grade and like forgetting about, like, all you care about is the number on the top of the box. Forgetting about the item that's actually in the plastic case is the cool thing.
Yeah. It has me going like in and out of those groups. Like sometimes I get a little tired of some of that, but
I mean, there's interesting stuff on seals and like how they like rate their damage and stuff. I like, if you grade games, I think there's stuff to learn, or if you ever plan to, like, I think this is perfectly fine. If you are just like a basic bitch like me and you're just gonna put your games on the shelf and not in a plastic case, then this definitely isn't for you.
Yeah. All right. Look, I'm going over understanding the grading scale. This is like way into the guide. It talks a little bit about how like WATA grades things when there's like a spine tick on a sealed manual, or you have like a sealed PS2 game and has crooked artwork in the case. Like, I guess that's probably stuff that's not on their website. Great to know, but if you're not interested in WATA, this isn't cool. Whereas if you're not interested in CGC's guide, still super good. In fact, maybe the best single guide on collecting video games that's ever been assembled. Compact, one document. This is collecting video games in a nutshell. Well,
okay.
I thought it would be more interesting, Johnny.
That's a bust. Let's move on.
Johnny, as you were saying, WATA didn't go over when we're done collecting video games, did they?
No, they didn't say what to do when you're done. No, they did. They said profit.
Damn, Johnny, that's actually something I didn't consider. So technically you're right. WATA has an end game. The end game is cashing out and then, buying a yacht or moving to Costa Rica or something. But for the rest of us who aren't spending $2 million on a graded copy of Super Mario Brothers, that's not a sticker sealed one, but it is a hang tab one. Got to get those hang tab Marios. Are we ever really done collecting, Johnny? Should we ever be done collecting?
I mean, I think some people find a natural end and are normal human beings, and they move on with their life. They're like, I had those games I wanted to get. I got them. That felt cool. And then they moved on. And they just like, oh, look, my friends come over and sometimes we turn on that Nintendo that we enjoy so much. And then there's people like us, Tyler, where I don't know if there's an end, because once we begin to circle the drain, we're like, oh, it's almost over. We find life rafts that we invent for ourselves to make sure we never get done, Tyler. We find a way. We're like, well, you know what would be interesting? And then we do this bullshit thing and we're like, well, I guess I'll just research it, which just leads to spending money and then being interested in something else. So you're like, oh, well, I got to buy a couple examples so I can look at it. Tyler,
that is
my answer is
analogy.
No.
Your analogy that when we start circling the drain, we find life rafts for ourselves to keep collecting shit. I feel like that is definitely something that has happened multiple times in my life, Johnny.
All the time, buddy.
But for me and you, there is no end point. And I would assume for a lot of listeners, the people that I've seen quit collecting, even recently, there was the woman who messaged me on Instagram trying to sell some really nice, cool Famicom stuff. She was just like, oh yeah, I've just moved on to other interests. So is that the end? Is it when we finally get bored of video games, that's the end goal? There's nothing before that where we would actually stop? We're just buying stuff until we get bored? That doesn't seem like the right way to handle things.
I just like to think of it as enabling me never to be rich. All these things keep getting in the way of my savings account. And that's how I like it, personally.
Oh, I mean, I realized that a few years ago, and I'm like, oh, I really need to 100% max out my 401k and start putting more into my retirement account, just so there's less money sitting in my bank account that I'm like,
to buy games, yeah.
$3,000, I can go buy the Ultima I want. That's a great idea. Let me just click buy now.
I had the same epiphany several years back and was like, oh God, if I just keep money in my account, now I keep money in places that I can't get to it, like my 401k, which I could get to, but not it would be too much of a pain in the ass to buy.
Exactly. Just get the money out of your account, whatever savings account or different account you need to put it into. Because if I see the money, I'm like, oh, I have money, huh?
Yeah, buy it's dumb, but buy if your money is just sitting in your account, one, it's not working for you. There's a ton of things you can go be doing. I guess we need to throw on this is not financial advice, because I guess people can get sued for this. But there's a lot of other things you can do with your money, even if you did bonds or bought CDs. There's a lot of things that you can do better than just leaving your money in your account. And the way that it works for me is just make it inconvenient for me to get to. It'll come back to me, that's fine, but just make it inconvenient. That way I don't buy dumb shit with it.
Yeah. 100%. And I never found like a really good answer on what the best place to keep like your just extra money is, because like a savings account is bullshit. Like you don't get a good rate on savings. So what I do,
you want a basic high yield account is like okay.
I mean, all right, but I was setting this up a few years ago, and like literally the savings rate was like 0.01% on savings account.
Yeah,
I don't know what, like interest rates were so low, like no account was going to give me like 5%. Probably some crypto account that went out of business would, but.
Well, for a while, for a couple of years there during the middle of all this, you could do bonds, that were like doing pretty good for a while. High yield savings account, like 3%. Some CDs you can get like 3 to 5%. It just.
I don't want a CD though. I mean, I don't want to like lock up this money. I just want it out of my regular checking account so I don't spend it.
That's kind of like why bonds are nice, because they're away from your account only for like a year. So you can, I don't know. There are things you can do, and there are people smarter than me on what to do with it. But yeah, I did a lot of that basic shit just to get the money away from me, including putting it into like an online banking account where like I have one where there's just like money that siphons over to this online bank that I have no card for. Like I theoretically can't use it. Like I have to like request a bank transfer.
Yeah, that sounds like a pain in the ass. Good idea.
This
isn't the point of our episode, but I keep my extra money in index funds. So the money is always
good one.
Pretty liquid and immediately accessible. But if I do want to take out that money, if I'm like, oh, let me get $1,000 and buy some super cool video game, it's like not only do I have to transfer funds to my real account, but it's going to be like a taxable event that I'm going to have to report on my taxes. Ooh. And knowing that I'm going to have to do that, it's like, I don't want to think about that, and that prevents me from buying shit with that money. So that money just sits there forever now. I'm sure some people will be like, oh, the stock market's crashing. 2 banks went out of business this weekend. Like, we're all going to die. But whatever. My money just sits in the stock market. I'm young. Either the world is going to end or it'll go back up, right? I'll be fine. So,
I mean, it comes back, though, to the question. Well, does it ever end, though? Like, for us, I mean, do you think you will actually hit an endpoint? Do you think there'll be a part where you can actually transition and say, I'm not going to buy games anymore?
Ever?
Like,
no.
Realistic. like, let's say 10 or less a year.
10 or less a year? I mean, like, 10 or less a year is basically me on hiatus, not collecting video games. Will I ever be permanently on that? I don't know. I can, I almost see a future where I want myself to be on that, because that means I'm happy with my collection. And I feel like I'm pretty happy with my collection right now. I don't know how temporary that feeling is, though, because obviously these brain squirrels come in waves.
Yes.
I mean, you're a bigger collector than me in general, because you collect everything, Johnny. Do you see yourself ever getting to that point with video games?
Yes and no. Like, I go back and forth. Like, I'm like, I'll say this. I am happy with my collection. I know there's more stuff out there that, like, would be cool, but everything now is kind of like a fun to have or like an interesting idea. Not like, I don't have that same, like, if I don't do this, like, I wake up in the middle of the night thinking about it. Like, I go to work and it's like on my mind, like just shuffling through the background of my thoughts. I don't get intrusive, obsessive thoughts about my collection anymore. Sure. Sometimes that will happen with like one game or something I really want and discover for whatever reason. But that hasn't happened in a little bit. And yeah, I don't get those same outbursts anymore. So, like I said, everything, video game collecting is more fun for me now. Like, I still look at like Game Boy Color and I'm like, God, I'd like to get that. But finishing the Wii helped a lot. Vita being like 4 games away, pretty much done whenever I want to do it. Like, that helped. Like, because I know those big things are done. Like, this year I've only really looked at like maybe Xbox as like one of these vestigial collections I started. And after that, it's just like, oh, if I just want to keep collecting portables. But like the Game Gear doesn't tug on my heartstrings at all. And that's like a collection I started. A lot of it has to do with space too, because like I really am maxed out. It's just like now everything is just sad boxes. So it's like, it doesn't feel as good.
All right, I want to talk about basically all those things. But one of the things you brought up was like you just like looking at your vestigial collections, you call them, just like stuff you started that's like, oh yeah. And this is a crazy people thing, Johnny, because this is not how normal people think. You think, oh, I have most of the Xbox games. Why don't I own every Xbox game? Which, to even entertain that thought is just like a pure crazy person thing. Even as cheap as Xbox games are.
Yeah.
But at some point, the more and more we do this, the more it becomes, I'm accomplishing a goal, and then I'm just picking another goal because I've ran out of things to do. And like you were saying with like, you know, it's not burning me inside. Like when you're collecting Nintendo or Super Nintendo, like that kills you because those are the consoles that like you really, really care about. Probably the reason like you mainly got into video game collecting.
Yeah,
so,
well, and the thing happens in your brain too. And look, I can't speak for other collectors. I can only speak for my own particular brand of mental illness. But like I just do, I get obsessive thoughts, and I just think about it, and I'm like researching it, and I'm looking at my list going, it's not done. Oh, I really want to get this one. How can I find the best deals? What do I need to do here? How, like, should I go to these game stores? Like, unlikely. Like, I just start creating scenarios in my head that's like, maybe I should be doing, and like, oh, I should be checking eBay, and should I change this save search? That shit will happen to me, and it hasn't happened in a long time, but, yeah, my brain used to do that. I don't know if you would spin out on that. Like, we would talk like, oh, just suddenly up at 3 a.m. trolling eBay for what? I don't know why, because my brain won't let me, literally won't let me sleep. If I get, and I get hooked into obsessive thinking sometimes, and it could be about anything. But I will have to, like, go accomplish that task before I can even sleep. It's just the dumbest shit ever.
I mean, I don't think that's always a problem. That's just being really enthusiastic about whatever you're currently collecting. I mean, that probably means you're collecting the right thing if you're that enthusiastic about it. Or you're just, you know, out of your mind. Maybe you should go
mentally
to
ill, yeah.
Yeah, but
enthusiastic is a really nice way of saying mentally ill.
But, you know, when we're like that for Super Nintendo, I would say it almost makes sense, especially if we're going after, like, you know, if you're obsessively hunting down a Super Metroid or a Super Mario World, like a game that will live in your collection forever, no matter what. If you quit game collecting, you're not going to sell your Super Metroid. It's just never going to happen. But the problem is when, like, I would never do that for Wii U. I collected Wii U because it was like, wow, the whole Wii U set is like $1,500 and there's only like 100-something games. That seems really attainable. And it says Nintendo, so it just seems like something I should do. It was very much a goal I set because it was busy work, more or less. Like, who cares about the Wii U? It's
let's not call it busy work. Let's call it extra credit.
Okay, we can debate terminology on what that is.
Sure.
But I basically collected the Wii U for no reason. I honestly feel like a lot of people collected the Wii U for no reason, other than it was really cheap and really available. A complete contrast from the Switch, because Switch, you could have collected Switch like as everything's coming out, but that is not really cheap. Collecting Switch is a nightmare scenario, whereas collecting Wii U was super easy.
Yeah, I mean, it's being, and we talk about this, like being opportunistic and looking for things, and who knows, maybe that Wii U collection is really going to pay you off one day.
It won't. But the point isn't even if it was a good investment or whatever.
It is the next Sega Saturn, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Of course.
Yeah.
Johnny, the best investment would be putting my money into an index fund or something, some safe investment real estate, whatever you people want. Second best investment is not going to be 150 Wii U games. It would be buying one like $2,000 game or whatever that has like speculative growth potential probably. Because like what is going to happen to Turbo Stunt Squad? Is that like a $200 game, $150 game? Like that's not going to be $1,500 one day.
You don't know that.
You look at Disney sports basketball.
Yeah.
The possibilities for the future is endless.
I'm just telling, like, remember I told you to collect Disney games and you were like poo-pooing me, and then now look at Disney basketball.
So what I'm getting at with this Wii U stuff is I'm not considering the whole of what I want my collection to look like, even though like I have set a pretty reasonable cutoff point that I don't really want games after the 2000s. just because there's too many games already. And I still went for the Wii U just because opportunistically it seemed like a thing. I needed a checklist to go after because, hey, I'm a collector. I should be checking things off a checklist. Like the idea of just knowing it exists and being happy with it just did not cross my mind. One of the things you said in a recent episode, it was what was it, like the most historically important games, something like that. And you brought up wizardry, and you were like, maybe for wizardry, it's better to just acknowledge that it exists and not buy it. And when you said that, it's like, wow, that is something I just never do. If there's something I find cool, like I just want to buy it immediately, no matter how much it really fits into my collection.
Look, it is something I tell myself a lot, and I try to do. I'm not as successful as I would like to be at that, but yeah, there definitely is a point where sometimes you just gotta go, oh, that's very cool. I'm never gonna buy that, but that is very cool. I'm glad it exists for somebody else to buy.
It's difficult, especially when someone collects something like really close to what you collect. Like, I don't know, if I was looking at someone's dope-ass PC-88 collection, and they had like just a bunch of like weird, rare, and cool games that I didn't have, I'd be like, oh man, should I set up a save search for that? What's one? Rusty? Is that a PC 98 game? Is it called Rusty? It's a Castlevania clone for the PC 98 with a female protagonist. And like everything about this game is absolutely cool as fuck. And I don't have it, and it's rare and expensive. Do I need it? Like, not really. I'm not even a PC 98 collector. I'm more of a PC 88 X1 collector. But it's something I could look at and be immediately jealous of, that someone has it and I don't. Whereas if I'm browsing social media and I see Johnny post his movie ticket games, because that's less of what I collect, it's easier for me to say, wow, that's cool. I'm really happy for Johnny, but I don't have to own that. I guess something I'm just like working on is being able to look at almost anything and being, wow, that's cool. I don't have to own that. Because a lot of cool things are even cheap. Like if I wanted to go after movie ticket games, Johnny, they're like $15 each, even with the ticket. It just takes some work to find them. It's very attainable, but it's the busy work. It's just like something I see and like my brain's like, I could do that because they're only $15 game. Let me go get every movie ticket game.
Yes, absolutely. I actually brought this up.
Hundreds of dollars of things and dozens of things on the notion of that's cool and that's pretty obtainable. And then it's just like a side quest that would be something to do. And then when I'm done with it, they're going to sit in a box and I'm going to find the next cool thing to do. And there's no end to that thinking.
I will tell you a secret. Being cool and obtainable is the bane of all collecting.
Oh, that's true. And Johnny, you know what that's a problem for? That is a problem for hobbies that don't really have defined limits. Let me go back to our first bullet point that we skipped here.
Yeah.
But when you think of stamps or books or like, I don't even think trading cards really fits because those are really, really rigorously defined into sets. But there are hobbies that just have tens of thousands of things. Like, it is absolutely impossible to collect everything. Even with something like Magic the Gathering, you could collect everything. Theoretically, it wouldn't be easy, but it's pretty doable.
There are defined limits with enough money and time, yes.
And it's specifically doable because it's all put out by the same company, so it's like really easy to decide what belongs and what doesn't. If you wanted to collect every video game, like, it's already impossible. Like, there's even thinking just back to like the weird stuff that almost doesn't count from like the 50s, 60s, and 70s. So much of that stuff just doesn't exist anymore. You can't collect every video game. If you wanted to collect every book, like, you can't. That's not even like a reasonable thing to think of. But the idea that you can't have everything, meaning all your purchases have to be intentional, is what makes rare book collecting so interesting. By running after all these different subsets, like, for a hobby like video games, it's just never going to end.
It's interesting in some results. So, like, you talked about rare books. It becomes interesting there because, as you said, there's a lot of intentionality to book collecting, to rare book collecting. So when you see someone's book collection, it won't, even if you collect books, it's not necessarily going to look the same as yours. Yes, there's the stuff that everyone goes after, but, there's going to be enough divergence there that collections look unique and everything. If you collect for the Nintendo in North America, everything's going to be samesies. And the idea of collecting all games is it's an untenable mountain, especially if you include PC into that. It's just not going to happen.
I mean, we know some people, Johnny. How many people do you know that like have somewhat of a goal to own every video game? Because some people don't see this as insurmountable. They put like some mild limits on it. They'll be like, every American game or every Nintendo game. Calling out Mr. Sib here. But
yeah,
some people really do go for it.
I mean, yeah. So unobtainable if you're going for everything. If you put guardrails on it, like every North American Nintendo game that's licensed, that's doable. That's 100% doable. You could do it. You could do it right now, Tyler.
So the problem is...
well, you're close to doing it, as a matter of fact.
I'm closer than most. I don't want to do that, though. Also, it wouldn't be complete. I'm nowhere near close in terms of like complete NES and all that. A lot of that stuff's card only. But the problem with this idea of like, if you just think your goal is to get everything or as much as possible, like you can't be finished. And this is something I realized when collecting PAX pins pretty quickly. Because Johnny, I'm a completionist. I like getting all the stuff. So PAX pins. PAX is a video game convention in the US, for those who don't know. Actually, there's 4 worldwide. And they'd release different sets of pins at every PAX. You know, I don't know, a few dozen pins at every new convention. And I got in on this like a year or two after it started, and I bought everything. And every 3 months, there's another PAX. And whether I was going to it or not, like there's a PAX in Australia, I would have to have someone in Australia get all the pins, which usually it's not as easy as just like going and buying them. You have to like go do tasks and stuff. So these pins would be like a little expensive because people like had to go like stand in an hour-long line and play a demo to get a pin. And they can only do that for so many people. But every PAX, I would just go and get these pins every fucking 3 months, probably spending like a couple $100 every 3 months on fucking pins, plus whatever they release in the store, plus actually going to these conventions every once in a while. And like I was really on top of it. I had like 3 solid years of like every pin, every little stupid, little like rare, undocumented, whatever, from every region. And I realized like, there's no end, and I'm a completionist. Like, every 3 months, I just have to keep buying more pins. It would be like collecting Switch games right now. It's just like, every week, I have to keep buying Switch games to try to keep up. And it never ends. And it's no longer a fun collectible. It's like an obligation to keep up
yes.
a limitless set like that.
Yeah, well, and that's, you know, not to bring up companies like Limited Run Games. I know people hate it when we talk about, but that's kind of the problem with their release schedule, right? Every Friday, you know, new stuff's coming out. The wheel is ever turning.
I mean,
you'll never get off that wheel.
Are people still seriously keeping up with like every limited release? Because that's just like,
I don't know.
How much money are you throwing away on just like whatever they come up with, whatever indie thing they publish? That seems crazy if you guys are keeping up with Limited Run. Unless, like, I understand if you have to get the Switch set and like, yeah, you got to keep up with all that, I guess. But man, like they number every release ever, right? So
yeah, I mean, and then occasionally PS4 games will show up so all those guys with PS4 sets, you know, are after it. The point is not like the specific set or anything. The point is the wheel is ever turning, and it's not, again, like you were saying, it's just an obligation. Like, do you remember the times where you had your alarm set for a stupid limited run? So you're like, oh yeah, let me make sure I go buy my limited run thing. That's not fun. That's not, like, I understand, like, sometimes the obtaining of sometimes a cool item is fun, but when you're like setting an alarm to go just click a button on your computer, that's not super fun.
Yeah. Definitely agree. Make sure you log into PayPal before you log into the website so it doesn't ask you for your credentials. Be signed in. If you're using Shopify, just have that shit ready. Don't, like, make sure your phone number's in there. Have your phone number in your clipboard ready to go, because it doesn't fill out your phone number automatically.
Like, what is the problem with that? Like, what
I don't know.
Technology? Like, I'm glad you said that, because how annoying is that, right? Like, every time it happens, I'm just like, are you serious, guys? Still with my phone number? Come on.
I've never missed a limited run release because I'm prepared for all that bullshit. I haven't bought anything from them in, like, at least a year, I think, but I was so ready for that. Like, now they don't even do limited runs anymore. They just do pre-orders. Like, what a scam. They've, like, completely transitioned their business model, and, like, they must be making so much more money.
I mean,
good job, Limited
fine.
Run. You really got it done.
It's fine. They're just a publisher now. It's like, it's not,
exactly.
not even anything to be angry about. Now it's like, good. Now you're just a publisher with a scheme, and that's fine with me.
I mean, they basically turned into what everyone was complaining about when they initially launched. Like, oh, not everyone can get their games, and now it's just everyone can get their games. Here you go, guys.
Yeah.
Except they limited, what was limited to like 4,000, Johnny? I don't know. Everything's limited to 4,000. All right, Johnny. What I was talking about, I was talking about how many people we know that have like obsessive collections. We both know, at least I know, people who don't even post their real collection because they know they have too much fucking shit. And this might be everyone on Instagram, because every once in a while on Instagram, you'll see someone post like, my unorganized pile, or like, here's the shit you don't see on camera. And like, obviously everyone's Instagram, like the collection that they're posting is very curated. They want to make sure everything looks nice. But like, how many of those pictures are people who have like cardboard boxes of fucking shit that they put just out of frame? I've seen enough people post their pile of cardboard boxes that are just out of frame to know that there is a bunch of people who just have random boxes of shit laying around that they can't even put up for display. It's crazy. Isn't it crazy, Johnny? What are we doing with this stuff?
I mean, I don't know, because you know me. I'll post anything I have. I don't give a shit. Barbie games.
Your collection looks so nice. Like the majority, it might not even be the majority at this point, but like your Nintendo stuff is all super curated, alphabetized, and on multiple shelves. Not everyone has like that much space to even lay out.
No, I mean, I don't have enough space for
like that.
I don't have enough space. Like, you guys want a picture of my shame room? Sure, I'll show you. I'll show you the stack of boxes all my Game Boy games are in. Whatever. I don't. You know me. I don't care. But I know, I understand your point. This is devoid of your point. Yes, I think that happens a lot, and like, people can't. Also, if you collect a bunch of stupid stuff, it would take me so long to post my whole collection one by one on Instagram. It would be boring. And also, most of that stuff, like, people don't give a crap about, right? Like, I sometimes post the stuff that people don't give a crap about. I mean, I mostly post that because I think it's fun. Like, oh, you can go see Mario 3 anytime, but have you seen this?
Chicken Shoot for the Wii, game number 6,429. New game.
You mean
Chicken
Shoot for the Switch now?
You got the rare gun bundle for that, Johnny?
Oh yeah, buddy. No, I didn't. I passed. It was one of those games I stopped myself from buying. That's a true story.
Good job. Are you going for a Switch set, or
no? God,
okay,
no.
I don't know.
Oh my God!
You don't need that. What do you mean you stopped yourself from buying it? Why were you even considering buying that?
Because I'm a better collector when it comes to Switch than I am with almost everything else. Because I'm like, I want a cool Switch collection. I just don't want all of it.
That's it. That makes sense. But no,
I know it's just an unexpected answer. So you're like, that doesn't track with anything else you've ever done. But okay. I mean, I guess like the Switch is maybe so overwhelming it finally broke you, and you're like, maybe I should actually just curate what I buy here and not get everything. Oh, I told you, I'm like, it's too overwhelming. You'll never know, and like the rules will never be right, and it's too much. It like my brain does not need that. I just know that about me. I'm like, don't want it.
I hear a lot of comparisons, and by a lot, I mean like 2 or 3 people I talk to. But that Switch will become the next NES, and I get it because of, popularity, cultural impact, having a bazillion games. I think there's a lot of reasons that analogy doesn't make sense. Like, the content of the library is like, NES is the foundation of a billion different things, and Switch is like re-releasing a billion different things. But I think that makes sense. I think, like, when people choose a starting point for collecting video games, I think, like, a lot of people choose NES and then kind of go up through cartridge stuff. I think there's probably a bunch of people who start around the disc era of, like, GameCube, PS2, and go from there. And I think Switch will be another one of those foundational starting points for, like, an entire generation of people. So I think it's going to be the most interesting thing to see in years from now. And going back to the last episode, like, man, there's so many Switch games, so like all that stuff is going to get lost to history. But it's going to be so interesting to see what lives in that set, Johnny.
Hey, you know what? It's going to be real weird. A lot of Switch games have a chance of making it because there are ports on so many different systems.
I mean, yeah, that makes sense. It might be like the games that already made it. But even then, like, what am I thinking? What's the Switch port that I always think of because I think it's so weird? Titan Quest? Like, Titan Quest is like an early 2000s or mid 2000s PC game. It's like a Diablo game, and it just randomly came to Switch one day. Like, that didn't make it. That's not going to make it.
And hey, you don't know.
All right, Johnny. Johnny, what's the end goal for all this stuff? Because that's not something I ever think about. What are we doing? Because I want to make sure that the point, whenever I do see people collect, or when I see people quit collecting, it's either they've decided they're a hoarder or they've found a new hobby and moved on to something else.
Or like something, like some life event forced them to.
Or like they need money or they need to move or something. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So was it CJR? Is that the guy on YouTube who quits collecting every year? Like, he just quit collecting again. And he said it was basically because, like, look at all this stuff. I have all these Xbox games, and he pulls one off the wall. It's like, I don't care what this is. And I'm paraphrasing, but he would say something like, I only care about Super Mario Galaxy and Super Metroid, like the games that actually matter. And so he's claiming he's done and he's going to sell all his shit. But that is, whenever someone quits collecting, it's not that they're done. I almost never see someone quit because they are done. I see someone quit because they are bored or because they are stressed by how much they are buying or life events. So what do we do to prevent that, I guess, is the question here.
Well, first off, all these YouTubers who are like, I quit, I'm done. Like, they either like got a real job or that's not true, right? Like, that was just a content grab, because if this is like, if they have like a big enough following where it is making them money, then how could they possibly quit? Does that make any sense? Like,
yeah, I mean, like Metal Jesus can't quit because his job is showing people collecting shit.
Yeah, well, it'd be like, feigning great sadness and pain. I've finally come to the end. Like, get out of here. I just imagine that they exhaust like Pokemon and then are revived and come back the next week. All
right.
That's just how I think of like YouTubers when they quit game collecting. I'm like, how are you doing this if this is your value stream? Anyway,
Johnny, they'll get like an apology video out of it if they start collecting games again. So it's just more content. It's content, Johnny.
Yep.
We're making it right now. Here it is, guys. This is the content.
Ooh, yeah, welcome to this great content we're giving you. Yeah, content about how other people quit, so we don't have to say we quit. Did it? Anyways, I don't know what the true end looks like. Like, for me, is it when I die and then just my son looks at all this garbage and goes, good Christ, what is all this shit? And that is something that occurred to me, not just recently or anything. When I die, when I did not have a son, I did not really care, because I'm just like, I'll get old and I'll die, and I don't really give a shit where everything goes. I don't care. I'll be dead, right? So who gives a shit? But now that it's like a burden for my son, I guess he goes, like, if he's not into this stuff, there will have to be a point where it has to go sooner. And that will be this is my end. Because what am I doing with it? And I think people hit that threshold at different points in their life. So I don't fault anyone for that. And it sounds like I fault people for quitting, like, oh, you quitters. No, like, please, if you hit that point in your life and you're really just like, what am I going to do with this? And I'm not actually actively collecting and I don't enjoy it sitting around and I'm not picking it up and looking at it or doing anything with it, then sure, get rid of it. This is, I think, a dilemma all collectors go through. If you look at any hobby the list of people making videos about how and why they quit the thing that they were doing is a mile long. But for me, the end will look like, oh, I guess this isn't something like maybe I'll be retired and just can't afford it anymore. And it's like, okay, well, I can't afford it. Maybe I'm moving into a smaller place. Maybe now is the time to like maximize it. I hope to be retiring and not like, I don't look at this as a retirement fund. So that's not what I want to do. So I figure if I ever sell it, it would be like, okay, I can sell this now, make money on it, and then take whatever money I've made and then just like hand it to my son, like, or buy a house, be like, you bought a house, or here's a down payment for a house, or whatever. I hope this made I hope my bullshit made your life easier as it went along.
So your end game is the WADA end game of cashing it out and turning it into coins, Johnny.
Yeah, buddy, convert it to coins.
Like I don't see that for me. Like I'm never gonna cash this out.
Well, I mean, you were me before I had my son. So, like, what does it matter? If you're enjoying it, like, why would you stop?
I mean, if you're enjoying it, why would you stop? Like, there has to be a way to enjoy all this stuff without setting constant pointless goals. And I'm not saying if you have intentional goals, if you have intentional purchases, like collecting's the fucking greatest thing.
That's bullshit. I'm going to tell you that's bullshit.
That's bullshit.
It's totally bullshit because, again, what did I tell you? When we circle the drain, we find ways to create life rafts for ourselves.
But that's not good.
All of it is just bullshit goals that we've stacked up. Is shit reasoning. Like, it's nonsense. Like, you're either enjoying it and you like it and you want to keep doing it, and that's why you decided to move on to something else, because I went as far as I could go with this one, so now I'm going to go to the another one because I keep liking it. And then you're just like, another one. You're just doing that bit. And that's fine and good. No one, being me, is here to talk you out of it. But if you're like, oh, I guess I have to go. No, you wanted to go to another one. No one made you do it.
No one says, oh, I guess I have to go to another one. But
well,
I don't think that people think about, like, if you need a goal that's going to take you, like, 5 years or 10 years, you might say, oh, let me start collecting the PS2 set. But
you know it's bullshit. Because if you want it, like I said, you're just enjoying it, and games are awesome. They're cool, and they're interesting to look at, and they're interesting to research. That's why I'm the wrong guy to have this conversation with, because I'm like, I love games. People are like, I love to slap games and sell games, and that's cool. Go do that. What I love about games is not the money end of it, right? Like, yeah, that'll eventually probably be my end because now I have someone to think about. But before I had a son, much like you, I was just like, yeah, I'm just going to do this, I guess, into perpetuity because it's cool and awesome. And then, you know, or until I run out of space or like actually need hoarder style intervention.
I mean, you probably already do need that intervention.
I don't think I do. I think I'm good. My games are not like in the living spaces, or they're like, I mean, I have some in my living room, but those are the playable ones.
Uh-oh, Johnny, I've got the Wii U games in the living room. What am I going to do about that?
Oh,
the most prominent thing on one wall of my living room is Lego Dimensions for the Wii U, because it's the biggest Wii U box. Yes,
I remember seeing it. I mean, when I saw it, though, you also had Rock Band stuff out.
I still do. Okay. Is that a problem? I haven't played Rock Band in however many years, and I've got like the cool drum kit in my living room, Johnny.
I packed all that stuff up, but I never kept it out on display. Though I was looking at Rock Band 4 for the Xbox, because they will, I guess, carry over all of the old shit you bought still. And I was like, would I like to buy Rock Band for sometimes when I just feel like doing karaoke? And the answer was, that doesn't sound like the worst $40 I've ever spent.
I'm so sick. I when Rock Band 4 came out, I'd redeemed so many fucking Pepsi codes and bought so much DLC on like different PS3 accounts because I was like sharing some of these with game share groups. And there's this game called Phase Shift on PC. If you're done with dealing with Rock Band DLC and just want to download any fucking song you want from like a huge database, you could set up Phase Shift, and they have skins that will make it look exactly like Rock Band. Only problem is it does everything and is perfect, but it doesn't have vocal support, so it won't judge your vocals, which I realize is a big part of Rock Band to a lot of people. But if you just care about play Phase Shift.
I mean, to me, that's what makes Rock Band and not Guitar Hero. Yes, I understand drums and piano are there, but it was the vocals that moved the needle for me.
All right. I mean, but if you're just partying with a bunch of people, you know, the vocals don't need to be judged. Everyone can listen to it and decide, was that an 80 or was that an 85? Guy, I think that felt more like a 62.
I thought you were saying there wasn't like any vocal support, so you can still sing. Like still shows the lyrics.
There's vocal support, but it doesn't judge your pitch.
Then who gives a shit? Like that makes it funner because then you can sing however you want, and you're not getting like random.
Yeah, it's not like there's like 50 milliseconds of input lag, so it like my yow wasn't right on pitch, so it gave me a good instead of a perfect. Ugh.
Yeah. No, I'm for that.
All right.
So Tyler, what is your end game? You were trying to tell me, but I cut you off so rudely.
No, I don't have an end game. I have like all these things noodling in my head. I've got, we got the Game Historia site that we haven't worked on in weeks now, which is a site intended to get people interested in actually playing like some of the older, more difficult to grasp your head around video games from like, 60s, 70s, 80s stuff that people do not go out of their way to play, especially if they didn't grow up with that stuff. And especially like the really old stuff, like Atari, like most people would probably be good watching a YouTube video of Atari, but the whole goal of the website is like, hey, here's some goals, play it. But yeah, that's been put off because, I've been too busy. And part of that was just like collecting stuff and doing Collector's Quest rather than doing that. But there's a lot of, I think the endless pursuit of more stuff can get in the way of whatever someone's end goal might be. And I'm not saying that like this game history website is my ultimate end goal. But
so it's a museum, right? You're opening a museum. That's
absolutely. It's going to be opening a museum. Everybody wants to see my cart-only Super Nintendo collection. I mean, where else can you see every Super Nintendo cartridge released in America, except for some of the really rare stuff like Max, Johnny? Google Images maybe, but besides that, I'm opening a
YouTube videos. I might have a YouTube video.
Yeah.
I might have a YouTube video of that very thing.
Okay. None of us are opening a museum. But you know what, Johnny? That could be something. If you really think you're opening a museum, the endless pursuit of more stuff could be getting in the way of that.
Hold on real quick. Say museum again?
Oh, it's one of the words I can't pronounce correctly. Sorry. Okay. Museum. Right. I say museum. Okay. Is it museum?
I think it's museum. But
I say museum, we have like two syllables. I also say capture, and people tell me I say that wrong. It's capture.
What do you say?
Capture.
I say capture.
Yeah, you say capture. I say capture.
Oh, I see.
We have to ask Mike Chiaramonti about this because he's from Long Island too. Maybe it's a Long Island thing.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not doing this to like everyone should know at this point.
I love one of the words that people get me on a lot, Johnny. Don't worry.
No. I like to hear all the regional stuff. As one of the other obsessive things I do is like build characters in my head that are nothing because I love vocal patterns and like, oh, that's a fun vocal pattern to try out. Like let's talk like that for a little bit. It's a dumb thing I do, and so I like hearing alternate pronunciations of words because now that's something I could through. I've never thought of saying museum. I'm like, that's interesting.
Johnny, this episode is brought to you by BetterHelp.com. Johnny, visit BetterHelp.com to talk about the voices in your head saying different words. And
I don't listen to the voices. It's just like character voices. You're just like, you don't. I know there are people out here like they do it. They hear like a weird vocal pattern. They're like, what would that be? And what is that? What would that character sound like? And then like, what are they doing? Again, everything is a narrative to me. So I'm like, okay, the minute I hear a voice, I'm like, okay, what type of thing is this person doing? Like, where are they? And then I create these like little mini narratives in my head for these imaginary people. I know it's all imaginary. This is not me needing help. I'm okay.
Okay.
This does not interfere with my life. Shut up, Todd. I told you I'm recording. I'm just kidding. That's a
Johnny, I just thought I should let you know I don't do that. So we might need some more people to write in, and we'll see how normal you are.
I've never said I was normal. I think I said I'm fine. I didn't say I was normal. I'm okay.
All right, Johnny, my end goals. Like I said, I don't really have one, but I was talking about how the endless pursuit of buying stuff can interfere with that. If you're the person who thinks like, I'm the Nintendo Wii guy, even if you're like just a big general game collector, but you have like a special interest in Wii, and you're thinking like, yeah, one day I'm going to scan all these, I'm going to dump all of these ISOs, I'm going to document all the things I know on, whatever platform that you would do that, I'm going to upload everything to archive.org, whatever you're going to do. If all you're doing is buying more stuff and you're just like, yeah, I'm going to get around to that one day, like the act of collecting will get in the way of any plans you have. Like it's getting in the way of my plans for that website, or something that everybody says they're going to do, fucking playing your games, Johnny. Imagine that, like actually playing your game collection. And like, we're definitely not play your games or else what are you doing owning them type of podcast here. We understand the joy that comes from just collecting them. But there is some portion of your collection that you want to get around to playing, and it is 100 times easier to go on eBay and start looking up some Nintendo games that you want and don't have yet than it is to like sit down and be like, oh, all right, let's start playing Chrono Trigger, a game I know is going to take me 30 hours. I mean, it's kind of it's like TikTok. It's like going and shopping for Nintendo games is something you could do in 20 seconds, whereas sitting down and playing a video game, especially, an RPG, an action-adventure game, like most video games, takes a dozen hours or more. It's a much bigger commitment. It's much harder to sit down and do. So again, the act of shopping will get in the way of actually enjoying video games, I think.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I tried to do both. Also, I don't know, like, I can theoretically shop for a video game while I'm in line doing something dumb, like, I was in the post office today, so I was just, like, in a 20-minute line, so I was like, I can browse eBay right now. But I don't know if I would feel super comfortable, like, trying to involve myself in a game. So you're right, like,
I'm talking about like, it's 2 p.m. on Saturday, Johnny. Let's say not while we're multitasking in our real life. Most people are probably not trying to fit in video game shopping in between everything else.
Listen, look, you know what my time schedule is like. I budget every minute, right? But my point going into that further is playing games for me is a bigger deal. I do have to like set aside time. I have to find I don't want a time when it's like too loud and like my son's going crazy. I want to like sit down and make sure I can thoroughly enjoy it. So, I was agreeing with you that yes, it is a lot harder for me to, like, I can browse eBay just like in a second, but like sitting down and playing my games is like an event. I feel like, I've got to get the bath ready and light the candles and set everything up just so, that it's like the equivalent to me of like playing games. I got to get everything just right. And then I'm like ready. Like I got my snack. I got a big cup of water, and then I got like a Coke. Hopefully like a vanilla Coke Zero. I'm like, yeah, all right. Here's like my bowl of carrots. I'm ready to go and play some games now. Yeah, it's just, there's a whole process. There's a whole setup, and buying a video game is not like that. That's all.
Yeah. And I mean, it can take up as much time as you want because, I mean, Johnny, how many things do we want that just aren't for sale or require a lot of hunting? Because I'm not looking for a Super Mario World cartridge. I'm looking for like the reverse seal quality misprint variant, or I'm looking for like a really nice condition, complete in box one. And like that's every video game that I could do searches like that for. It's not like I'm just going to what's the website that's on TikTok. Johnny, what?
I don't.
It's not like I'm going to eStarland and I'm clicking buy it now on something. Like I do hunting for every single one of my videos to buy the right copy.
Is Easterland on TikTok?
No, it's one of those
DK
other
Oldies?
DK Oldies, that's the one that's on TikTok, yes.
Oh yeah, terrible site, overpriced. Do not use it. everything looks overpriced to me because I've got old man brain, and I'm just like, I remember when I bought that in 2006, and it was but 2 bits.
No, DK Oldies is overpriced, but they're providing a service, and the service is for people who don't want to buy random secondhand video games on eBay, which makes just so much more sense because you have so much more selection. You get pictures. It's a cheaper thing, but some people just have this mental block. Like, I don't want to just buy this from some guy. I want to buy it from a company, and there's only so many companies that will have a stock of used video games from the fucking 90s. So DK Oldies is where like your mom would go to buy her $120 NES with a copy of Super Mario Brothers 3. Anyway, they're like famous on TikTok now, so there's all these YouTube videos that call them out for being shitty because I guess they're a lot more in the public eye. So people will buy something and be like, "Oh, this label's not good enough. This Nintendo isn't quite refurbished how I would expect." So
you mean they create content of their own? They're like, "Oh, I can content leech. Like they did this. They're big now. I can use them as a bridge for my own way to get followers."
10 million %. They're like, oh, DK Oldies is big. Let me buy the stuff that I know is most likely to be fucked up that I can complain for 28 minutes about.
Yeah. I can't believe this. Get out of here.
There's some merit. If they're going to be like, I'm the legitimate company you can buy video games from, and you buy an NES from them, and they do nothing to it, and you get like a chipped NES that is just like kind of busted, like, I get it. Like, I would want to get a really nice NES from them if it was.
No, I mean, also, if you have reached that level of popularity, then you have to have tighter QC, because the visibility and the backlash. Now you start talking about defending your brand, right? So for brand defense, you have to do that kind of stuff.
That's true, but at the same time, if you're that popular, like where are you getting the stock of like 9 out of 10 NESs? Like you probably have a bunch of 9 out of 10 NESs, but if you're shipping out like 10 NES consoles every day, day after day, like you need a stock of like the mediocre NESs that are going to be fulfilling those orders, even though they cost $120 or whatever.
Sure. Anyways, we can get
we're off. Yes, Johnny, is the pursuit of goals more important than achieving them?
It's not how you climb the mountain. It's not if you get to the top of the mountain. It's how you climb it, Tyler.
Oh, that's an interesting one, because I would say that most people, the achievement for them is like climbing Mount Everest or something. Like they don't care about I don't know. I'm not a mountain climber. Do mountain climbers care about the journey, or they care about bagging that peak and adding it to their?
I think there are both, right? But like I just in a fundamental way of saying like doing it the right way. Like I accomplished it. Like okay, I didn't get to the top, but I did everything the right way. I didn't cheat anything to try and just get to the top.
Okay. I think wanting something is definitely more fun than having it. And I didn't look this up at all. I bet there's been a lot of psychological research into that. Because the second I get what I want, it goes on the shelf and I'm on to the next thing. That's what collecting is. Something I've wanted for a long time. Like this Ultima 1. Like literally my only goal this year right now is just getting this Ultima 1. Because I don't want to... I'm trying to not have bullshit goals right now.
Okay, so let me ask something. Let's assume you've got it. You get this Ultima 1.
Exactly, yes.
How much time are you spending with it?
Well, it's going to take me probably 2 minutes to open the box, because I'm going to be very careful. I don't want to slice through the packaging. Then I'm going to look at it, open it, maybe take a picture of it. That could be another 5 minutes. Probably going to... It's awkward. Ultima, it comes in a big Ziploc bag. So the version I want isn't the boxed version, it's the baggy version. The boxed version, I know exactly where I would put it. This baggy version, though, probably going to spend 10 to 15 minutes figuring out where to put it. So that puts me at a good 20 to 22 minutes I'm going to spend with this copy before it goes on my shelf and I never think about it again.
And that's your goal for the whole year?
I mean, kind of. I mean, this is a very, very expensive game. And the only way I'm going to get it is by saving my money, not buying other stupid bullshit. But yeah, for right now, I mean, that's it. But it still feels like, even though my goal right now is basically one game, like it feels like I'm pursuing and collecting something, even if all I'm doing is saving money and looking for the right copy of the game to show up.
Well, because that's where people miss. Like the interaction is part of the hunt, like checking all the eBay auctions and, like blowing up the pictures to be like, oh, is that just right? Is everything in here?
Yeah, is it real? Because there's been a lot of scandals with these old computer games where people are making really good fakes of them, or one Italian guy named Enrico is making a bunch of fakes of them. And I find like these incomplete copies, I find bits and pieces, I find things that aren't in good enough condition. There's this one on eBay that's been there forever that's super overpriced. There's plenty of stuff to get my blood pumping, get me angry, make me feel like I'm still engaging with the hobby, even if I'm looking for one specific game. And I'm still buying stuff on the side. I'm a human being, Johnny. I have weaknesses. I see cool bullshit and I still buy it. But yeah, the problem is when I get that, my really only goal right now, like, I'm gonna have to pick something else to start getting, or do I just decide that my collection is good enough? And
it's complete now. You're good.
It's not. Like, having that copy of Ultima will never be as fun as trying to find the right copy at the right price, because though it's just like everything is building up to the moment I click buy it now or win an auction. Like, there's been all this anticipation, and I get all the dopamine, and like even opening the box, opening the box is not as much dopamine as winning the auction. So I get like 2 hits of dopamine out of it, and then it's like, yeah, I've got it, and like then I've just got it. There's so many of these games are just like, yeah, I've got it now. How do I be happy with it, Johnny? Like,
how are you? Why are you unhappy with it?
I'm not unhappy. I love my games, but the happiest moment.
How do you stop the cycle?
Yeah, the problem
how do you stop
is the
this
cycle,
being the driving force?
And like the dopamine hits are from the buying and not the having. Like, yes, I do. Like, I look at this top shelf of NES stuff that's right next to me. I've got all my nice, like, Super Mario 3, Contra, Mario 2, Punch-Out, Metroid, all the Castlevania games, like multiple variants of all of those. Like, that fucking rules. I love having those. But probably I don't, like, the way I just looked at it right now didn't feel as good as, like, when I got my first Castlevania hang tab and was, like, opening up, like, fuck yeah, Castlevania hang tab. I need this.
High five.
Is the answer being one of those guys that, like, constantly cycles everything and just, like, sells off stuff and buys new stuff? Because then I'd get a much bigger cycle of constantly getting stuff. But if I become that guy, then it becomes the thing of the hobby is really... all the acquisition is so constant that, like, my hobby it has to 100% be based on acquisitions. And then I'd have no time for, like, setting up websites, for documenting stuff, for this podcast, which I somehow have time for on top of all this, making YouTube videos, whatever else you do to engage with the hobby other than buying stuff.
Well, I think that's important, right? If you set it up like that, your hobby that actually just becomes acquisition of something you just happen to have knowledge of, so you can make good on acquisitions. That's not that interesting to me.
That's not interesting?
No, that's not interesting to me. Some people like that. I mean, some people like to do that stuff as a financial hobby all the time, and I'm not here for that. That's not why I'm here. I love games. I like to own them. I think they're cool, and I think that's fine. It's hard. It's hard to just be present in the moment at every second. Like, oh, I got the game. I did the thing. I accomplished the goal. But again, it's what we're talking about. I accomplished the goal. Now time for the next goal. What else? There's so many more video games to go get. And you just keep going, right? You keep cycling. I think you can stop and find other ways to engage with your hobby. Like, I don't know, doing this podcast, I think helps. It scratches an itch.
It sure does. That's why I'm here, Johnny.
I know.
It's Web 2.0. We're in the 2000s now. People make their own content. We don't depend on the companies to make it for us.
No, we do it ourselves.
Yeah.
And make none of the money, while the platforms that host us make the money. Perfect.
Yeah. We pay SoundCloud to host this podcast for us. Although we do have a Patreon now, which still feels super weird. CollectorsQuest.com. No, Patreon.com/CollectorsQuest. If you want to give us money for our hobby. Feels like a scam.
Yeah. Is it a scam? We don't ask for very much.
Your marketing. No, this is feeling even scammier as time goes on.
Is it?
And now I feel the fact that we have a Patreon, like we're a small podcast, Johnny, makes me feel even worse for like the other content creators I listen to, like Lost Joystick Network. Like they give us like $4-6, I'm sure, every month, and like I want to give it back to them on their Patreon, but they don't have a Patreon, so I just feel like we have a fair trade. We each make content for each other, but we're also stealing their money for some reason and not able to give it back. It just feels like the worst.
I mean, we could just send them like a game every once in a while.
No, that's weird. Then it turns into like this financial relationship. I don't want it.
Look, man, I don't know how to solve your problems.
Getting money just feels weird. I don't like money. Get it out of here.
How long did I grapple with it? And that's why we only use the money for dumb things. Like, that's why I have not bought a game with the money. Nothing like that happened. So that's why I was like, oh, we can go to Portland. Let's pay for Portland stuff while we're there.
We just go on extravagant vacations with your money. Got it.
We were so very extravagant.
I do remember telling a story about a guy who was like peeing outside our house, and then the other guy who threatened to murder us and blow us up in our Airbnb. Johnny, we got to cut out the Airbnb. I'm just saying, like, Airbnb is not it. I don't think, like, Airbnb is fine, but man, hotels are pretty good.
Are they? Maybe they're better. I always feel more comfortable in a house than a hotel room. Is that weird?
Yeah, kinda.
I just feel like a hotel room is just so blah to me. And then, like, I don't feel like I'm hanging out with the people that I went with. What's nice about the Airbnb is then it's like we're having a slumber party.
I guess. All right. I mean, we had laundry and everything. We had a nice table to spread everything else on. Whatever, Johnny. That Airbnb was fine, except for the fact that I felt unsafe.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, I think that's more a testament to Portland than to Airbnbs in general, but, you know.
Yeah, suck it, Portland.
Whatever.
We're negging on Portland.
I wanted to go to Midwest Gaming Classic.
I thought you are going to Midwest Gaming Classic. Yeah, but I'm way too busy. There's no way I'm going to Midwest Gaming Classic, by the way. I know people saying they're busy is cliche, but I am, and I can't.
Yeah, it's super cliche. Yeah, because again, it was like, oh, I was going to go, and we have our little Patreon pool, and I was like going to pay for this part of it. Now it's like, I don't want to do that if you're not going to be there. And then it just became also became super busy, and now I have a wedding I have to go to, and
all right,
2 weddings this year. Anyways, it got real dumb.
Next year, though, got a lot of people in the Midwest I want to see.
Dude,
it's so weird how many people I talk to that I've never met.
I am very disappointed we are not going to Midwestern Gaming Classic, and I 100% just blame you. You are the fault.
Well, everyone can correctly blame me. Send me a message telling me I've ruined the Midwest Gaming Classic.
Yeah, also, non-direct flights have ruined it because apparently it's in Milwaukee, and like, if I can't get there directly from LAX, where can I get there directly
what
from?
the fuck? Don't have your convention. Your convention needs to be right next to an international airport. Like, what are you doing? Why is there no convention in Raleigh? Raleigh is like right on top of an international airport. How the fuck do I get to Milwaukee?
Dude, you know what I was finding out is like I had to fly into Chicago for my wait to go there. And then I was like, wait, Chicago's like, O'Hare is like, what, an hour and a half from there? 2 hours? Do I just go there and drive a car?
That's where the last time I had to go to Michigan, I had to like fly to the wrong airport, quote unquote, and then get a car because to fly to the right airport would cost like an extra $400.
Same. Yeah, this is exactly it. So it's like, so dumb. So dumb.
Like in Raleigh, there's nothing. Like in terms of video game conventions, it's like the ones you go to and you like feel weird because it's like, oh, this is a really small convention kind of deal. Which I'm sure they have like their own community and it's great. That's not for me. I mean, I know it's just because the people who set up the convention live in Milwaukee, and probably when they started, like the first Midwest Gaming Classic, I'm sure had like 600 people attend it. But now that it's big, it's just like, move it to the airport.
Yeah,
I want to go to these things. And I mean, like, if I needed to go, I would go fly to whatever airport and then go drive for 2 hours to get there. It's just so inconvenient. Same thing with fucking pinball. Like, some of the best pinball conventions are in the Midwest, and they're in the middle of fucking nowhere.
Yeah, like, can we, like, put it in Las Vegas, okay, guys? Just do Tyler a solid. I don't even like Vegas, but at least every airport goes there.
Putting in Las Vegas would be the best, but even if you put it in a major airport, as long as I can go to Las Vegas first and then transfer there, so I could have Las Vegas as part of my trip. Because at this point, every vacation is going to have Las Vegas as part of it.
So put it in Orlando, and there's like hotel, like have it at a convention center in the airport, and there's hotel rooms in the airport. Perfect. I'll just stay in that bubble.
Yes. 1,000,000%. Orlando is perfect. Johnny, I did the thing where, I just wanted to see, like, what are the cheapest airline tickets I can get? Like, if I wanted to go on just, like, a weekend vacation, just, like, an overnighter to any destination, cheapest tickets, Orlando is literally always at the top of the list. Like, $29 to $50 for some of these flights if you don't have a bag.
Oh,
like,
goodness.
what? Have every convention in Orlando, guys. Isn't like Florida like super business friendly? It's probably like you can get away with like tax fraud or something there too.
Yeah, and you can go to Disney World and Universal. Come on, let's go. Everyone go to Orlando.
All right. Our Collector's Quest pick of the episode is having your convention in fucking Orlando.
Anyways, we're way off topic.
Johnny, how many times in your game collecting career have you truly been satisfied? Have you like looked at it and been like, I could be done. I'm not going to be, but like, I'm pretty happy with where this is.
Right now is one of those moments. When I completed Super Nintendo. Really, when I completed Super Nintendo, because you would think that was like one of the first ones, but it wasn't. It was finished much later. So really, that was like the first moment where I was like, I did it. I did the thing. I really did the thing. And then I completed NES like shortly after, and I was like, yeah, now it's like super good. And like I had Genesis at that point and N64, so it's like, oh man, I've done it. Also, when I finished PS1, I was like, God damn, I did it. Like, look at all this early gen, like these classic games. What good systems I have complete sets for now.
And then you immediately went on to like, all right, time to start with Saturn or whatever.
No, Saturn was done. Saturn was an early set. But when I completed Saturn, I hadn't completed Super Nintendo. So like it felt good to complete Saturn. I was like, that was cool. Let's keep going. There wasn't any of this like, yeah. What about you?
I mean, honestly, for me, it's pretty much the same. So it's when I completed Sega CD and NES, which were like by far my favorite consoles to collect when I was like probably the majority of my collecting life. And you know, I don't have a Stadium Events, and my NES set is loose. But you know, I'm happy with my NES set. I'm not ever going for Stadium Events. I remember saying, we used to debate whether Stadium Events or Nintendo World Championships was a cooler collectible on the show, and I was always on the side of Stadium Events because I'm like, that's the one that completes your NES set. I would say Nintendo World Championships is cooler now because I'm much more in the vein now that World Class Track Meet is a Stadium Events variant. But also,
I did it.
Yeah,
I did. We got there.
We did, but also like I care about both of those way less than I used to.
True.
But I'm also much happier with my NES set as it is. Anyway, completing those sets. When I wasn't done. I knew there was a lot more to collect, but I was very much like, okay, like the core of my collection is done. This is the stuff I really wanted. If everything else like burned in a fire or like my eBay account was deleted or something and I couldn't buy anything else, I'll be fine here. And then now, like recently, the past year or so, just because I'm out of space, Johnny, I have too much stuff. I'm pretty happy with where I'm at, trying to set much more reasonable goals. It's not like I still feel the urge to buy more shit, and when I'm looking at other people's collections, I'm constantly like, oh, that's cool. Oh, that's cool. I don't know if I'll ever get like the bug out of me in terms of like just see cool thing, go buy cool thing. I think I've made a hell of a lot of progress though, especially this year. This year we're doing the better Tyler, financially, physically, mentally, whole thing. We're trying to be a better Tyler this year, Johnny.
Okay. I'm with it.
I didn't expect you to say that like now you're kind of happy, because I know you're always like working on finishing, like, I gotta pick away at Game Boy games. Oh, I gotta pick away at like cool horror games.
But that's because I like it. You know, it's not like it's different. It's not like the driving force is not the same as it used to be.
Okay, I can understand that. Because yeah, when you're working on a big set, like when you have like 100 games that are less than $10, like you just always are thinking, man, I could just go knock out probably 7 games right now. I'll find like the cheapest copies on eBay and they're going to be good.
Oh man, even when I was doing the Wii, I did not get that level of like frenetic energy that I feel sometimes. I was just like, I could, and people were like, you have like 7 more games, just go buy them. And I was like, it's not like they were too expensive. They were like $10 to $20. You saw my end list, and it was dumb. Nothing was like, oh God, I can't afford that. It was just like, I mean, I guess. But I didn't have that, I didn't have the frenzy in me.
All right.
So it's a different thing.
Johnny, I think takeaways, if I was going to make some takeaways, make sure we're not setting goals for the sake of setting goals. I know we talk about goals on this show a lot, but make sure we're setting goals for things that we really want in our collection. And think about what we could do with our collection, like making content, like contributing to research, like doing scans and dumps, gameplay content on YouTube, all that kind of stuff. That doesn't just involve more mindless buying. Because especially in this hobby, I know a lot of us, Johnny, are really on the mindless buying train. I am, you are, absolutely. All of us are, or all of us have been at some point. And it's just, I would say mindfulness is not a particular trait of a video game collector. Probably not of a collector in general.
No, especially not in conjunction with collecting. I would also say just, a little self-analysis. Just hold yourself accountable for a second. Take stock of your personal inventory and be like, am I enjoying this? Do you need to end collecting? Is like... You're not crippling yourself financially. You're not hurting anyone. If all that is like fine and you're still enjoying it, then go forth. If you're finding yourself answering, no, I'm not enjoying this. Also, this is really bad for my life. Then maybe you should consider why you're doing it. So, just take some personal inventory of how and what you're doing and see if those line up to good goals.
Yep, all good advice. And also, Johnny, if part of the reason you continue to collect is that it's an investment and that you're going to leave it to someone, or it will be worth more in the future, it is absolutely not. It is 1,000% an obligation. Whether you plan to sell it later on or whether you plan to leave it to someone, that is a huge obligation for them that they do not want to deal with. So, Johnny, my dad has 2 collectible cars. They're Triumphs. Not super valuable or anything, but I don't know. They're probably in the realm of $5,000 to $20,000, I would imagine.
Like Triumph, the motorcycle maker?
No, it's a British car company. Maybe it's an American car company.
I thought Triumph was a British motorcycle. Oh,
okay. Maybe the motorcycles are British, but the cars are American. I think it was it might have been my dad's first car. Okay. But it's not the motorcycle company. Anyway, he's got 2 of these. You mean
nostalgia got to him?
Nostalgia got to him. He's a car guy.
Oh.
He has 2 of them. Like, if he leaves them to me, I'm going to be like, God damn, what a pain in the ass. Like, I know I'm going to have to figure out how to sell a car. Like, where do I sell a fucking collectible Triumph car? How do I judge the condition? There's so much I have to figure out. And that would be 2 things. 2 things. Imagine leaving 5,000 video games to someone and they don't have a concept of like, oh, the Panzer Dragoon Saga and what's something that's like really weird, like a Left Bro Super Mario 3 is worth more than the Right Bro. Like they would have to figure out like whatever weird variants you have that are worth more money. That's an impossible obligation. They're gonna want to just get rid of it as fast as possible. There is no investment value in that. Or even if you have this magic fantasy in your head where you're going to retire and sell all this stuff, you're not going to retire and sell all this stuff. You're going to retire and spend like a year of your life working again to sell all of this stuff. No one is going to buy all of your video games in one lot unless they get a huge discount.
Correct.
All right.
Yeah. Triumph Motor Cars is British.
Okay. Well, he's got these tiny little fucking piece of shit cars, and he has his little car club, and they go on like their little drives, and every time they go on a drive, there's someone driving a flatbed because they constantly break down, so someone always needs to like load their car up on a flatbed.
That sounds real lame.
So stupid. It's so there's these piece of shit cars.
Anyways, there. We did that, whatever that episode was. We did it, Tyler. We did it. We're the donest.
We're never we're the donest? I feel like I'm never going to be done, Johnny.
No. See what I did there? Thanks for okay. Now we should go to the collector's question.
I heard Tiger Wolf says, I heard No Clip refer to Tunic as a Metroid Brainia. How do you feel about this? I believe I heard the term Metroid Brainia because Tunic is it's a platform adventure puzzle game. Metroid Brainia. Possibly the worst genre name of all time. I understand having a quip about that in a review, but man, using that term with any degree of seriousness is just the worst thing I've ever heard.
So here is what I'm going to say about calling anything a Metroidvania or Brainia. Do not use a word that has no contextual meaning for people when writing a review of it. Like, oh, it's an action platformer. Okay, that tells me something. I may not know what a Metroidvania is. I may not have parsed that. I may read and pronounce that word wrong. Like, just, or if you're not in the hobby, maybe you've never heard that. Like, it's so inside baseball. I don't like it.
Johnny,
specifically to Metroid Brainia, gross.
Yeah, it's the worst. I Googled it to see if anyone is actually using it. There is a unpopular but still extant video, Metroid Brainia, the evolution of a genre, and is talking about Return of the Obra Dinn and Outer Wilds. Man, I hate it. I hate a triple portmanteau that requires knowledge of two very similar games in Super Metroid and Symphony of the Night, plus adding the word brain. That is... We need better genre classification. I mean, it's fine to use it as a quip, but we cannot call a genre Metroid Brainia. And get Souls-like out of here. Someone fix the Souls-like. Not everything can be a fucking Souls-like just because we got a bunch of action games now. All right.
But it was hard. I died.
It's got an interface where it has like the D-pad on the lower left side of my screen, so it's Dark Souls now.
Oh, that's a real D-pad thrower.
All right.
Oh, how do you feel about the game Spiders? Oh, it's a real AB classic. I love it.
Oh, we're pretty far behind on questions. I already responded to this Metroid Brainia thing by saying, "Yo, did you play Borderlands 2? That Diablo Doom like?" We gotta stop it.
Gross. Yeah. Stop using other things to describe the things. Just describe them. Describe them with your plentiful vocabulary. I know you have all of the words.
I know, like adding brain just because it rhymes with vein when we have the word puzzle.
Yeah. Yeah. Why couldn't they have said, it's like a Metroid Puzzlevania style game?
No, don't even try to portmanteau. Like, okay.
I just said you could.
Calling it a
Puzzlevania sound.
A puzzle Metroidvania, like adding the genre, it's still bad because you still have Metroidvania, but you know what? It's better. It's a step in the right direction towards introducing real genre names back into genres rather than introducing more portmanteau bullshit back into genres.
Puzzlevania for life.
Puzzlevania. That's definitely a genre. Someone...
Anyways, go on.
Strange asks... As time has passed, I haven't even read this yet, so I'm getting this at the same time as you, Johnny. As time has passed, do you find yourself being more forgiving of average or mediocre retro games? Do you try to see them through a historical lens within the context of their time? Or are you more critical with the benefit of hindsight?
Mediocre in what fashion? Is in playing or collecting?
It's probably playing. I mean, it could be either, but... Hydlide, Johnny, a game that... not a lot of people like on the NES. Is your opinion of it now different than it was 20 years ago?
No. So I keep all of my opinions like that kind of compartmentalized. Like, I still think The Legend of Zelda is great, and Metroid is great. And I know that they have a lot of flaws, and that, yeah, they could be better. But I'm not going to judge them harshly just because time has moved on. They were good. Like, saying something was good for its time is, like, still accurate and fine. But I'm not going to be like, oh, Zelda is a B now, and, like, Metroid without the map system is, like... I don't really, gosh, guys, like, what are we even doing here? I'm not going to angry video game nerd the shit out of retro games. I'm just not doing that. It's a terrible shtick, and it's gross. Don't do it.
I hate calling games good for their time. It's like no one looks at Jurassic Park and they're like, oh yeah, Jurassic Park was good for its time. It's like, no, Jurassic Park is like literally just as good now as it was back then. It's a piece of media. It's a piece of entertainment. It does not get worse with time. And I mean, Jurassic Park might be particularly timeless, but still,
that's not true, because we do look at special effects. Like in this case, we have to look at special effects driven movies, and we go, yeah, like the special effects look bad now, but in their time they were like pretty good. I think people do talk about things like that and still give it passes.
If the only reason the movie was interesting was because the visual effects were good for the time, it was never a good movie. And this goes back to...
That's not true. I disagree with
that. Fuck off.
100%.
No, what's a movie that was only good because of its special effects? I can't think of one right now. Give me an example.
Avatar?
I haven't seen Avatar.
Okay, well, I'm not going to say Avatar because I don't like Avatar. What I might say is The Matrix. I think some of the special effects, like, it's like, it's
that
not
movie's
as
pretty
good
cool.
Now, but like,
I mean, that movie's like a cultural touchstone, even beyond its special effects. Like the idea of the Matrix. That's like a thing we.
So that what I'm saying in 50 years when those special effects look god awful and we all live in the Matrix anyways. I'm gonna say still gonna say the Matrix is still an interesting idea and it's still a good story outside of the special effects.
Yeah, exactly. But that's what makes The Matrix a good movie and not a good movie for its time.
But the special effects of that movie are integral to introducing that idea, right? Like, without the special effects and watching how they did it, like, you have to have that immersion. They have to show you contextually the difference between this is The Matrix, this is not The Matrix. And they did this through special effects. So just because those special effects, like... it's like, the special effects made it. It did. It's what led to the buy-in. You have to have, like, the idea of divorcing yourself from, like, the weird ideas of a movie and just being like, okay, I'm buying into what they're doing. And so I have to buy into the special effects. The special effects help give you that.
So that's true, but I don't think people would say The Matrix was good for its time. I think people would say The Matrix is good. So what is a movie that people would just say is good for its time and is not worth it anymore? Yeah, you know what?
Is not.
Fuck movies. I know you're a movie nerd. Whatever. I've got one, Johnny. It's the perfect example, and it's fucking Assassin's Creed. Assassin's Creed literally was
terrible.
Always a bad game, but it was very early in the introduction of like parkour open world, a genre that like absolutely exploded in the Xbox 360 genre or Xbox 360 era. But this was so early and so big that the fact that it was just a bunch of repetitive bullshit over and over and over, like the same couple mission types over and over, like nothing interesting happens in the original Assassin's Creed.
Hated that game.
That game sucks.
It's kept me from playing other Assassin's Creed games because I'm like, this is so boring. I can't, like, even if the idea... What's one?
The second one is way better. I'm sure there are other ones that are way better. I just can't play 8 games that are all the same.
I'm just like, this is too boring for me. I was literally like falling asleep playing that game. I'm like, okay, I can't do this. This is too boring for me.
In that context, I don't think that games age out of being good. I think that there are a lot of games that were probably never good, and people had the wrong opinions, or people were more influenced.
But there are technical limitations. You're limited by the tools you have. Yes, you can kind of step beyond those. So if you can make something awesome, like Metroid isn't bad because it doesn't have a map. It's still an interesting, clever game, right? But that it could be made better. We could remake Metroid and make it better. We do this all the time.
I mean, that's true. I mean, for a game like Metroid, it's hard for me to say that Metroid was never good. Even though Metroid so clearly isn't as good as Super Metroid or probably 100 different types of Metroid games. So like games like that, obviously put in the context of their time, I considered Metroid an absolute like bona fide classic video game, even though I don't consider it like particularly like amazing. I think it gets a lot of credit for the time period it's in. And like it's something like Metroid's cheating because that's like the beginning of a genre. Not the beginning of a genre, the beginning of a franchise that
it is a beginning of the
amazing.
Metroidvania. It's a beginning of Metroidvania, don't forget.
Shut the fuck up. But yeah, I think beyond the considering like some games were always bad, they didn't just age out. They were just always bad, and people were wrong for whatever cultural or pop, like moment of time reason.
Are you really going to consider that true? Because like there's a lot of Atari games and people just experienced them and had fun with them. The novelty of them, even though they were limited by the time and space in which they were developed, people sat down, enjoyed with them because they also didn't understand that more was capable and didn't have the imagination to like look beyond that, or what they could imagine couldn't feasibly say, oh, this is going to be done in a few years and this game would be better because of it. Like they're just like, oh, I played this, it was fun. Like it's not just that the game is locked in its time period, it's that the people who enjoyed it are also in that time period. Their context is the same as the game's.
Okay, I mean, that's true. I guess I don't, in terms of like whether I judge a game on its strict merits in the moment right now or I judge it in context of its time, I guess I don't really do either of those. It's kind of more of a mix for me, because there are plenty of games, like if I'm looking at a Mega Mania on Atari, just like a random shooter, in terms of Atari, like first of all, it's a fun game. It's a straight up fun shooter. Obviously, it's not as fun as Space Invaders Extreme or whatever similar game has like a billion more levels and effects. But in context of Atari, it's a lot more fun than most standard Space Invaders type Atari shooters. So like mixing those two, like I'd say like, yeah, Mega Mania is a pretty great game because for the time it's good and is still fun today. And there's like a mix of those two standpoints. It's not just like, oh, Mega Mania was good, but the fact that I could play, Space Invaders Extreme and Tempest 3000 is like outdated, so I don't need it anymore.
Context matters. Like if you go back to movies, think about how many movies are like, oh man, this movie did something amazing that then a bunch of other movies then put into their scripts, and then that punch that movie, or the fact that this movie did it first and you'd never seen it before, made it exciting and interesting, right?
Yeah.
Now it's just like a gimmick other movies use. Like let's
Blade
Usual
Runner
Suspects.
And like Cyberpunk in general, Johnny. How about that?
Yeah, I was going to say Usual Suspects, right? Like, the surprise twist ending, and then it's like, that was awesome, especially in context of the time, because no one was doing that. Now, when any movie can come do that, you're just like, whatever.
Yeah, I guess that is like you have to understand, like, if you, there are
it's
points
hard.
where you could like watch a movie, like if you didn't understand like how influential something was, like Citizen Kane is a perfect example, because it like pioneered all these different like cinematography techniques, lighting, the concept of having like two characters talking over each other at the same time, so it seems like more natural and not realistic, or more realistic. If you go into that movie and you don't understand, this is a moment where a lot of these techniques were like really brought into the mainstream in a major movie, you could just be like, oh yeah, Citizen Kane, that was a great movie. But when you understand the context around it, it becomes like, the quote unquote greatest movie of all time type deal.
Yeah. Anyways.
So we maybe answered that question, Johnny.
I have no idea. We talked a lot.
Let's watch some movies from the 40s, I think, is what I'm getting at.
Disney movies, let's do it.
No, not Disney.
I think those are mainly the 50s.
Those are probably all racist now. So that's it, Johnny. We definitely talked about these questions enough. Johnny, are you done? Or what are you buying and what are you playing?
Tyler, I've already done a What Am I Buying session, and it was like literally nothing. I had to do that in the last episode by myself, and it was the most boring What Are You Buying ever. And I did get one game, thankfully, and it was Zombie.
Oh, pretty cool. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Pretty cool. It if you don't know what this game is, it's from Ubisoft, and it is a bad Commodore 64 game, also Atari ST game. What do you want for it? It came out in like 1993. Got a really generic looking box that's all pixelated. Love it. Love it. It's for the Halloween collection. Really fun. Oh, you know what else I got? Castlevania Anniversary from Limited Run Games came in.
Oh, great. What are you going to do with it? You going to put it on your shelf and forget it?
Oh, I scanned it immediately and then put it in the shelf.
Man, this hobby rules. All right.
Yeah. I may not have even looked at the back for more than just scanning it.
I mean, I understand. But it says Castlevania. You got to own it. It gives you that dope.
Not Castlevania. Contra. Did I say Castlevania? I meant Contra.
All right.
Yeah. Same thing.
I was very restrained and did not buy those, even though I love Castlevania and I love Contra, Johnny. But
I know. That's why I bought them, because I'm stupid.
They got you. You got to not let them get you. They're getting you.
I'm easy to get. Like,
you're so easy to get.
Yeah. Oh, hey, kid, you like candy? I sure do. That's what it's like. Like, what do you want? I'm easy to get. Yeah, I'm very gettable. Like, oh, we made this Final Fantasy collection. Do you want it? Yes.
I mean, all right. I'm not very gettable right now, but it is the first Final Fantasy collection of 1 through 6 that they've ever made.
Gotcha, bitch.
That's pretty good.
Bitch.
They've made all these fucking remakes, and they never bundle anything. They bundle like 1 and 2, and that's it. But they finally got 1 through 6. I mean, this is a company that sells their games on the App Store for like $16 each. These fucking like 30, 40-year-old games, they sell for $16 each. And they finally made a bundle of all of them. And it's expensive, but whatever, they made it. So
yeah, they made it. It's there. You can get it. A cheap version, you can now get it on Play Asia. It comes in English. Like, you don't want to go through the Square store and the hassle.
All right. Also, I said all of them when I had 1 to 6, but whatever. Might as well
1 to 6.
them, right? It's like its own thing.
Yeah. After that, it becomes a different thing.
And I mean, now it's like God of War. What is the new Final Fantasy game now? I like skimmed it, and I'm like, this isn't a
something
RPG.
Yeah. Oh, what is I guess is it the first time that Final Fantasy 3 in its original state has been released?
Probably, yeah. I mean, well, no, it was released on the Famicom in Japan.
Well, I mean, in America,
yeah.
In America, yeah.
Physically, definitely. Like, was that translated on Virtual Console? I doubt it. There's no way they would do that, right?
No.
So, sure, yeah.
It was just like the 3D version.
Go get your real copy of Final Fantasy 3. Your collection's incomplete without it. You're never going to be done. You're never done.
Never done.
Even if you just collect NES, it's just like, oh, well, this is kind of NES. It's Final Fantasy 3.
You can talk yourself into anything.
You absolutely can. It's the worst. Stop collecting. Guys, stop before it's too late.
Okay.
Johnny.
Tyler, did you play anything?
No. Why do you think the episode was a week late? I've been so busy at work. I have no time for anything.
I know, but
all right.
I have to ask.
Johnny, I bought a Geniacs electric brain from 1955.
Oh, boy.
Johnny, me and Joe got this on the same week. Me and Joe are on the same page.
You guys are just the same person almost.
I can't believe we both got it at the same time. So
I can. This is not like, holy shit, I can't believe that happened. It's like, obviously.
So, on topic, I think Joe has been taking a little bit of a break of collecting. He's not buying crazy stuff that he wants that he's not just like endlessly buying stuff right now. He's spending his time kind of developing the Dewey Decimal System for video games. Like, I always complain, why isn't there a catalog? Someone needs to give us a system where we can determine how sets are built, and when we're talking about a version of Donkey Kong, which version are you talking about? Oh, I'm talking about NES 001-3 or something. Because none of these grading companies are going to do that because it's too much work, too much things change over time.
A universal identifier.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I know he's trying to do this, but he's making it too complicated. I already know it's,
we're in pre-first draft of this. Yes, there's going to have to be revisions done to whatever he's coming up with.
I'm just telling you, there's a really good... I had to develop something like this for a different product lines, and just, it's not... You can really screw yourself by getting too far into the weeds.
Okay. Yes. And it's not going to be perfect. It's impossible for it to be perfect. But having one system, even if the system isn't perfect, even if you don't agree with how the system categorizes things, at least there will be a system, so there's a point of reference for something. Like, if you think
I almost disagree there.
Are you serious?
I am, because I think bad systems, I think a lot of times we fall into this complacency, like something is better than nothing, and I don't believe that is always true. I believe a bad system and a lot of times does more damage than any system. Spending the right amount of time and doing it, especially like the Dewey Decimal System is fine for librarians, but there's like only there's a reason you have to go to school to understand library science, right? And like I that's like an issue for me of like, did we overcomplicate this? In the case of books, I don't think so, because there's so many, but in games, I think there's a way you could do it wrong and provide, like, we would just do it and it would be annoying forever. But there's lots of systems out there that are just suboptimal. They're fine. They'll do the job, but they're just suboptimal and they don't tell you enough. Like, you just have these kind of unreadable codes that are hard to parse. And I don't find those to be particularly useful. And if you introduce them to a large population, they're just like, it's just might as well be the Dewey Decimal System, where it's just a large string of numbers and they mean something, but like parsing that is very hard.
All right. Well, I 100% disagree, because there's multiple systems for categorizing stamps, and it doesn't matter what system you use. You could say this is the Scott 2507, or this is the Mickle catalog, 365, and they're two different systems, refer to the same stamp in some way. As long as there's something, like, no, I'm not saying everyone has to like convert to Joe's system, but if you say this is my Donkey Kong is a Joe NES 001-54 or whatever. Anyway, Joe's working on this system.
Look,
I don't know when this is going to be done.
I have more faith in Joe than most people to do the right thing with it. I'm just saying, like, in a vacuum, and then this is not criticism of Joe, right? This is just criticism of like bad systems I've seen implemented, and then like people have to check out wholesale because they found out it didn't do enough, or wasn't robust, or it was too esoteric, and you're threading a needle there. So yeah, I just, like I said, I have been burned by this stuff before. But do I want a system? Yes. Okay.
Well, anyway, he's working on this. Part of what he needs as like a foundational thing is defining what platforms are available and possible. So he's like asking me for my help in defining like what types of platforms that he's forgotten. No, not what platforms he's forgotten. Like, what is the concept of an electronic game, not even a video game, that we could track? And he's thinking of things like the touchscreen games on airplanes, or the VR games you used to play at like amusement parks in the 90s, or I had a handheld GPS unit and it had games on there. It had like Java games that you could play. Oh, and they were exclusive to that Garmin GPS. Just like really weird off the wall stuff that no one is ever going to think of. And it all comes back to like stick and rock and bagatelle. You know how we are. But Johnny, the first, maybe, potentially, probably not the first. Anytime you make a definitive statement in collecting, you're always wrong. The first home computer that could theoretically play a game electronically may be the GenieX Electric Brain. This was a piece of shit cardboard computer kit. It's for like your STEM kid of the 1950s. It's made of the same thing. It's probably not, but like when you go to Home Depot and get a pegboard, it has
it looks very much like a pegboard.
Yeah, it's like a pieces of pegboard, and then you have these circles, and you build like circuits on top of these circles, and then spin them to make like lights light up and computer stuff happen within circuits. And it's supposed to teach you about computers and electronics. But theoretically, you could make a game like Tic-Tac-Toe or Nim on this thing. So is it a video game platform? No. Is it a computer? I mean, yes, it is a computer, a very, very basic computer that is 100% manually controlled. This might be the first home electric video game, Johnny. Not video game, first electronic game that you could play at home. Because at the same time, they're developing like chess engines on mainframes. That doesn't count. That's not at home. This is not a big part of history, Johnny. This is fucking nothing. This is absolute psychotic people stuff, but I bought like a cardboard computer from the 1950s.
You are lost to me, my friend. I don't know how to help you.
Yeah. So I say like, my goal is just Ultima right now, but man, I've also wanted one of these for a while. So yeah, I've wanted one of these for a year or two, and this really nice one came up on eBay for $500, and it's been sitting there. And like Johnny, believe it or not, no one is looking for this fucking thing. So I'm looking at it. And I'm like, I would buy that, but not for $500. So I'm like, all right. I mean, he's going to see that no one wants this. He's going to drop it. And, when it hits like $100, like, sure, I'll buy that for $100. Johnny, it is still up. It has been probably over a year. It is $503.80. I don't know who is going to buy this. I didn't pay anywhere near that for mine. It drives me, it's like one of those things that drives me crazy, and like it motivates me to like constantly like check my save searches and constantly like look for like the better deal, for the better item, for the more complete thing, for the cheaper thing. Anyway, a bunch of these came up all at once, and I was finally able to get one for a much more reasonable price.
You did it!
Yeah.
Yay.
Talk about an item I will put on my shelf and never open again, because
we need a great success sound.
We really don't. That is, I feel like that's that's like a boomer thing, Johnny. Sorry.
I think maybe we need a soundboard.
Okay, now I know you're just fucking around.
Yeah. Anyways, congratulations, Tyler. I'm glad you checked something off that list.
Man, when you put it like that, it's like, oh, all I did was check it off the list. Am I really going to be happy owning this?
It feels so good. We've talked about the most satisfying things. We have an episode, the most satisfying things in video game. And deleting an eBay save search is so satisfying. It feels so good, delicious.
It is really good. I don't know how good owning this thing is going to be. So it is. It seems like this was like half and half between like a smart kid would buy this or like a school would buy this for an educator, and it was used as part of like an education plan. But it comes in like a very, very plain cardboard box. So this will be like the absolute least interesting thing in my collection.
Ugh, yucky.
Yeah.
Do not like.
Cool. All right. That's it. That's it, Johnny.
That's the show. We did the show. Welcome back, Tyler.
Thank you, Johnny. It's been a while.
All right. Been a little bit. All right. Tyler, where can we find you on social media? He says,
What? Johnny, hit me up on the Discord. I don't know. Maybe we're gonna get away from Facebook. Maybe I'm turning into a crazy person, and I'm gonna be that weird friend who like makes you get me somewhere that's not Facebook, even though all your friends are talking on Facebook.
No, none of my friends are talking on Facebook. I've been telling you this for 5 years.
Am I the only reason you're on Facebook?
Yes.
So what are we doing?
Yes.
Delete Facebook.
Because I need the stupid messaging thing to talk to you.
Oh my God, it's so annoying how ubiquitous Facebook Messenger is. I'm willing to use anything. You guys get me on Signal, get me on Telegram, get me on all the weird like things that like maybe like political groups use when they're doing protests or doing things that they shouldn't be doing. I don't care as long as it's not Facebook. I will be the person who normalizes it and uses it even though I'm not doing anything weird. Okay. Anyway, Johnny, big tech is going to come and kill us all. So,
no, probably.
Get me on Discord.
All right. Okay, yeah. Find him on Discord. And you can also find me on our Discord, occasionally on Facebook. Nope, just kidding. You can find me on Instagram, which is basically the same thing, but for pictures. So, having said that, you can find me at Johnny_Iucci, but really the Discord is the best place. Send me a message there. And that is it for our show. Thanks for hanging out. Hope you enjoyed it. And if not, well then, we got more episodes coming. Just pass on this one and move to the next one. That's it for the show. Thanks. Bye.